In New York City, Eddie is trying to get his van back from the repair shop, but even offering all his rent money isn't enough to pay the bill. At that moment he gets a call from his daughter Sarah, but he ignores it to keep arguing with the mechanic. Eddie explains he needs the van to pick up his daughter and work doing deliveries, but the mechanic still doesn't care. Next, Eddie gets a call from his ex who yells at him because he hasn't picked up Sarah, who is still waiting at school. She reminds him that he never prioritizes his daughter and hangs up. Getting desperate, Eddie notices an employee's wallet on the table. He provokes the owner until he's pushed against the table, which allows him to steal the wallet without anyone noticing. After he leaves, he checks the wallet and is disappointed to see it doesn't have much money. When he reaches the main avenue, he looks around for potential victims, but there's nothing unattended. He starts tugging on car door handles, hoping to find one that's unlocked to no avail. One of the cars has a barking door that startles him, only for Eddie to befriend it and even give it some water. He also tries calling his friends to ask them for money, but nobody helps him. Buying lottery tickets doesn't work either because none of them have prizes. The next time Sarah calls Eddie, he does pick up and he has to hear her complain about abandoning her, but at least she also says she still loves him. After the call ends, Eddie notices a very fancy SUV in a remote parking lot and checks the door. To his shock, it's unlocked. He immediately gets inside and starts searching for anything valuable, but only finds sunglasses. When a person walks by, he makes sure to look away to hide his face. Without anything to steal, Eddie gets ready to leave, only to discover the door closed on its own and is now locked. He panics as he tries the other doors and tries to push them to no avail. When another person walks by, he has to hide again. Then he tries punching and kicking all the windows, however they don't even crack. Suddenly a tablet on the dashboard starts ringing with a call from a contact named Answer Me. Eddie ignores it and keeps on looking for a way out, unaware that someone is watching him through a hidden camera in the car. Eventually he finds a lug wrench in a compartment and hits the window with it, but this doesn't work either. As the tablet stops ringing, Eddie breaks the panel on the door and inserts his hand, only to accidentally get his arm hurt by a piece of metal. Soon the tablet starts ringing again and Eddie continues to ignore it while removing the panel, which doesn't open the door. Next he tries his phone, but he has no signal. Seeing no other options, Eddie ends up taking the call and meets William, the owner of the car. Eddie insults him and demands freedom, but William just laughs and makes the seats tase him as punishment. William explains that his car has been broken into 6 times without a single arrest, so he installed a special security system that makes the vehicle act like a prison. Freaking out, Eddie takes a gun from his bag and fires at the window, but the bullet bounces on the bulletproof glass and hits his leg, leaving him severely injured. At that moment a woman parks a car nearby and Eddie tries asking for help, but the windows are tinted and soundproof, so she just uses them as a mirror and leaves. Eddie's leg is heavily bleeding, yet William refuses to call an ambulance, claiming to be a doctor himself. When Eddie tries his phone again, it still won't work, and William clarifies that the car is jamming all signals. Tying his shoelaces around his leg isn't enough to stop the bleeding, and William keeps tasing him every time he uses bad words, so the combination of blood loss and electricity makes Eddie pass out. By the time he wakes up, it's nighttime and raining. To Eddie's shock, his leg and arm injuries have been bandaged. He checks his bag for something to consume, but both his water bottle and his snack bag are empty. The next morning William calls again and tries to share a story about his life, causing Eddie to snap. William tases him again before turning on the air conditioning and blasting yodeling music. At first Eddie says the song is alright, but this continues for hours and drives him absolutely crazy. That night he's so cold that he uses the seat covers as a blanket. When William calls, Eddie offers a sincere apology and promises not to be rude again. Without a word, William turns off the air conditioning but still won't let him go. The next morning Eddie pees in the empty water bottle before he starts destroying the car, hoping to find a way out, but nothing works. When William calls to mock him, Eddie notices someone staring at the parking lot from a balcony. They start talking, and when Eddie gets sassy, he gets tased again. That doesn't stop him from pointing out that if William lets him die he'll get in trouble. Eddie explains he never killed anybody and his gun is only for protection. However, William doesn't care and thinks the cops are useless morons, so he won't get caught. William also shares that he has cancer and only 4 months to live, that's why he wants to make a difference. Since the system obviously doesn't work, it's up to him to find justice. He asks Eddie for his social security number because he wants to check his record. If this is Eddie's first offense he'll be more gentle, but if he has a criminal history he'll cut Eddie's fingers like people supposedly do to thieves in some countries. Eddie refuses to give him the number and points out that people are forced to steal because the system has failed to give them a job, while rich people like William hoard all the wealth. An offended William tases him again and ends the call to restart the music. In the evening the temperature in the car starts going up and Eddie has to strip to deal with the unbearable heat. He feels like the rain is mocking him and he even considers drinking his own urine, but he can't bring himself to do it. William calls to offer him water and normal temperature in exchange for his social security number, and Eddie has no choice but to take the deal. Once William has the number, he turns the heat off and reveals he hid a water bottle under the seat when he came to treat his prisoner's wounds. After drinking the entire bottle in one go, Eddie tries to fall asleep, but something in the pocket of his jacket is bothering him. It's the lottery tickets he bought earlier, and there's one he hasn't finished scratching. He does so now and can't help laughing when he discovers he's won the money he needed. William calls again to know what's happening and Eddie begs for food, sincerely apologizing for his crime with a rather sweet speech. Deciding that Eddie is not a psycho, William opens the glove compartment to reveal a snack. Eddie immediately grabs it and notices a switch inside before it closes up. William hangs up when he receives another call, but Eddie can hear his voice on the speakers and the conversation confirms William is a doctor. Then the man announces he must go. Eddie notices the figure on the balcony moving, which means that's his captor. Once William has left the balcony, Eddie raises his middle finger for the camera and gets no reaction, which means William isn't watching him anymore. Then Eddie breaks the glove compartment and takes a picture of the circuits inside so he can analyze what he's working with. He inserts his arm and tries to reach the switch but ends up painfully breaking his nail in the process. When he tries again, the seats start tasing him because William is back and has seen him. The next day Eddie stays on the front seat pretending to rest, but he has his foot inside the glove compartment trying to get the switch. Another day passes and his body is getting so weak that he has no choice but to drink his own urine. That night Eddie's foot finally manages to reach the switch and turn on the car's power. He immediately jumps into the driver's seat and takes off, but the car stops in just a few minutes. William calls him to mock him and the car takes off again, but this time the owner is controlling it remotely. As the car moves through the streets, William plays classical music while pointing out that everyone lives in fear because crime has taken over New York. Eddie panics when the car starts going dangerously fast and it eventually stops in a dark alley where two criminals are beating up a man. William turns on the car lights and honks the horn, getting the attention of a thug who raises his shirt to show he carries a gun. The car speeds up and runs over the guy while William laughs. The second thug begins to run in fear while shooting behind him, but the bullets do nothing on the bulletproof glass. A chase ensues and the criminal makes a sudden turn to try to lose the car, only to find the street blocked by a gate. William makes the car go faster and slams it against the gate to hit the man. When the thug tries to stand up, the car keeps on pushing until the guy is severely hurt and bleeding. After lots of yelling, Eddie convinces William to stop and the car moves back. However, William is just mocking him and he moves it again to crush the guy's skull. A furious Eddie starts to yell all kinds of bad words, so William plays loud music while sending the car through the streets again. It's going very fast and barely manages to dodge other incoming vehicles. It enters a parking building and goes up the ramps very quickly until it reaches the roof, where it moves even faster to shake Eddie. He freaks out when he sees the car approach the edge, but it stops at the last second, causing Eddie to hit his head and pass out. In the morning Eddie wakes up in the car, which is still moving through the city. William reveals he visited Eddie's family and even took Sarah to school by pretending he works for a non-profit organization. While William scolds Eddie for owing his ex-alimony money, the car stops in front of the school and Eddie is horrified to see Sarah coming out. She goes home alone and the car starts following her to the point it passes right next to her as if trying to kill her. Sarah sees the car coming after her again and tries to go faster on her scooter while Eddie cries as he apologizes with all the kind words he knows. This isn't enough for William, who makes the car go faster. Desperate to stop this, Eddie grabs his gun and tries to self-delete, but it doesn't have any bullets. William makes the car dodge Sarah just in time and explains he took the bullets when he stitched Eddie up. The rest of the day Eddie stays silent while William continues to rant against the system. When night falls, Eddie finally snaps. He rips out all the cameras and kicks the tablet until it breaks. The car won't stop, so Eddie looks at pictures of Sarah on his phone and records a heartfelt message for her, apologizing for not being a good father. Unfortunately, he can't send it because the signal is still jammed by the car. Moments later the vehicle stops at a different parking lot and William lowers the window to say hi. Eddie freaks out and tries to attack, but William keeps on tasing him until he calms down. After spraying some perfume to deal with the stink of Eddie's poop, William hands him some zip ties and tells him to bind his wrist. At first Eddie refuses, but he has to obey after William shocks him again. Once Eddie's hands are tied to a hook in the car, William gets in and leaves a bag in the back seat. After putting the bullets back into the gun, William allows Eddie to have a cigarette and drops some gummy bears for him to eat. Then he turns on the classical music and takes off. During the trip Eddie keeps asking questions about William's daughter, causing him to stop the car multiple times just to make Eddie hit his head on the dashboard. William goes on a rant about the new generation and reveals that his daughter was killed by some thieves who tried to steal his car. He even puts his gun on Eddie's head as they start arguing about what justice means. While all this happens, Eddie keeps his foot inside the glove compartment until he manages to press the switch, turning off the power. The car loses control and falls off the edge of a cliff, causing Eddie to break his nose on the dashboard. William accidentally fires the gun and the bullet bounces off a few windows before it hits him from behind. After rolling down the cliff, the car stops near a river and both men fall unconscious. In the morning the phone sends the message because the jamming system isn't working anymore. Eddie wakes up first and starts struggling with the zip ties. He manages to break free at the same time that William awakens and a fight ensues. With all his accumulated fury, Eddie beats William up and gets the gun ready to shoot, but at that moment his phone starts ringing with a call from Sarah. William tells him to answer it and Eddie hears Sarah say she's very worried because she heard his message. Eddie assures her he's fine and promises to pick her up later. Suddenly the car engine catches on fire and Eddie asks William to open the doors, however William says it was fun and dies. Then Eddie checks William's bag and finds a hammer, which is strong enough to finally break a window. Eddie manages to get out of the car right before the flames reach the rest of the vehicle. He walks away with his winning lottery ticket, leaving William's body to burn. When he reaches the road, a driver sees him bleeding and immediately offers him a ride. Moments later Eddie goes to pick up the van, but the mechanic is still finishing the repairs. Not wanting to arrive late, Eddie decides to sell it to him instead and gets a bicycle that he rides to school. He reunites with Sarah with a very tight hug. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.